Question 1. Analysis of process optimization for an Oracle Cloud database migration to OCI, considering a scenario where the database contains sensitive customer data and requires minimal downtime. Which approach best balances efficiency, data integrity, and operational continuity? Option A. Execute a direct, lift-and-shift migration of the entire database to OCI with minimal pre-migration testing to expedite the process. Option B. Prioritize the fastest possible migration timeline, even if it means reducing the scope of data validation and security checks. Option C. Conduct a comprehensive pre-migration assessment, followed by a pilot migration with a representative subset of data, extensive post-migration validation, and performance tuning. Option D. Select a migration tool and method based on initial perceived ease of use, without verifying its compatibility with the specific OCI service and database version. Correct answer is C. Conduct a comprehensive pre-migration assessment, followed by a pilot migration with a representative subset of data, extensive post-migration validation, and performance tuning. Explanation. Scenario analysis. Migrating a critical Oracle Cloud database to a new environment, especially one involving sensitive data, presents significant professional challenges. The primary challenge lies in ensuring minimal downtime, data integrity, and adherence to Oracle's best practices and the specific regulatory compliance requirements applicable to Oracle Cloud services. The professional must balance speed of migration with thoroughness, risk mitigation, and validation, all while operating within the constraints of the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI, and relevant data protection regulations. The complexity increases when considering the need for process optimization, which implies not just a successful migration, but also an efficient and repeatable one. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased migration strategy that includes thorough pre-migration assessment, a pilot migration with a subset of data, comprehensive post-migration validation, and performance tuning. This aligns with Oracle's recommended migration methodologies and best practices for OCI. A phased approach allows for early detection and resolution of issues, minimizing the impact of potential problems on the production environment. Pre-migration assessment ensures compatibility and identifies potential roadblocks. A pilot migration validates the chosen tools and processes on a smaller scale. Rigorous post-migration validation confirms data integrity and application functionality. Performance tuning ensures the database meets or exceeds performance expectations in the new environment. This methodical approach directly supports the principle of minimizing risk and ensuring business continuity, which are paramount in database migrations and are implicitly governed by service-level agreements and operational best practices within the Oracle Cloud ecosystem. Incorrect approaches analysis. Performing a direct, lift-and-shift migration without extensive pre-migration testing or a pilot phase is professionally unacceptable. This approach significantly increases the risk of data corruption, extended downtime, and application incompatibility, directly violating the implicit professional duty to ensure data integrity and service availability. It bypasses critical validation steps, leading to potential business disruption and reputational damage. Implementing a migration strategy that prioritizes speed over data validation and security checks is also professionally unsound. While efficiency is a goal, it cannot come at the expense of data accuracy and compliance. This could lead to the migration of incomplete or corrupted data, which has severe implications for business operations and regulatory adherence. Choosing a migration tool or method without first assessing its compatibility with the specific Oracle Cloud service and the existing database version is a failure in due diligence. This can result in unexpected errors, performance degradation, or even an unsuccessful migration, demonstrating a lack of professional foresight and adherence to established Oracle migration guidelines. Professional reasoning. Professionals undertaking Oracle Cloud database migrations must adopt a risk-based, iterative approach. This involves a continuous cycle of planning, execution, validation, and optimization. The decision-making process should prioritize data integrity, minimal disruption, and adherence to Oracle's documented best practices and any applicable OCI service-level agreements. When faced with choices, always consider the potential impact on business operations, data security, and compliance. A robust validation framework, including both automated checks and manual verification, is essential at every stage. Documenting all steps, decisions, and outcomes is crucial for auditing and future process improvements. Question 2. Benchmark analysis indicates that a U.S.-based financial services firm is migrating sensitive customer data to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OSI. The firm must ensure that all customer data remains within the continental United States due to stringent U.S. federal regulations governing financial data privacy and residency. Which of the following approaches best ensures compliance with these regulatory requirements during the migration and integration process? Option A. Prioritize OCI regions offering the fastest data transfer speeds to minimize migration downtime, assuming that OCI's general security features will inherently protect the data's residency. Option B. Select OCI regions located within the continental United States that are certified to meet financial data residency and privacy standards, and configure all migration and integration services to operate exclusively within these selected regions. Option C. Rely on the default OCI service configurations for migration and integration, as they are designed to be globally compliant without requiring specific region selection for data residency. Option D. Utilize OCI regions outside the continental United States that offer lower operational costs, with the intention of implementing data anonymization techniques post-migration. Correct answer is B. Select OCI regions located within the continental United States that are certified to meet financial data residency and privacy standards, and configure all migration and integration services to operate exclusively within these selected regions. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud database migration and integration, ensuring compliance with data residency and privacy regulations while leveraging the flexibility of cloud services. The professional must balance the technical requirements of migration with the legal and ethical obligations to protect sensitive data. The challenge lies in interpreting and applying the specific requirements of the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OSI, platform within the context of the relevant regulatory framework, which for this exam is assumed to be U.S. federal regulations governing data privacy and residency. Misinterpreting these regulations can lead to significant legal penalties, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough understanding of the target OCI region's data residency policies and the applicable U.S. federal regulations, such as HIPAA for healthcare data or GDPR-like principles for personally identifiable information, PI, if the data is subject to such protections. This approach prioritizes identifying OCI regions that meet the data residency requirements, and then configuring the migration and integration services to strictly adhere to these chosen regions. This ensures that data remains within the legally mandated geographical boundaries throughout its lifecycle, from migration to ongoing operation. This aligns with best professional practice by proactively addressing regulatory mandates, minimizing risk, and demonstrating due diligence in data protection. Incorrect approach is analysis. An approach that focuses solely on the lowest cost OCI region without verifying its data residency compliance is a significant regulatory failure. This disregards the fundamental requirement to keep data within specified jurisdictions, potentially leading to violations of data residency laws and severe penalties. Another incorrect approach is to assume that all OCI services automatically comply with data residency requirements without explicit verification. This is a failure of due diligence. While OCI offers robust security and compliance features, specific configurations and region selections are critical for meeting data residency mandates. Relying on assumptions rather than explicit confirmation is a breach of professional responsibility. Finally, an approach that prioritizes migration speed over regulatory compliance by choosing a region that might not meet residency requirements but offers faster data transfer is also a critical failure. This demonstrates a lack of understanding of the absolute priority of regulatory compliance in data handling and integration projects. The potential legal and financial repercussions of non-compliance far outweigh any short-term gains in migration efficiency. Professional reasoning. Professionals undertaking cloud database migration and integration projects must adopt a risk-based approach that places regulatory compliance at the forefront. The decision-making process should begin with a comprehensive assessment of all applicable data residency and privacy regulations. This assessment should then inform the selection of OCI regions and services. A robust process involves 1. Identifying all relevant data types and their associated regulatory requirements, e.g., PI, sensitive health information. 2. Researching and confirming the data residency capabilities of specific OCI regions. 3. Mapping these requirements to OCI service configurations and migration strategies. 4. Implementing and continuously monitoring controls to ensure ongoing compliance. 5. Documenting all compliance-related decisions and actions for auditability. Question 3. Quality control measures reveal that the impact assessment for an Oracle database migration to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI, primarily focused on the technical feasibility of data transfer and schema conversion, with minimal consideration for downstream application dependencies, end-user performance degradation, and potential data residency implications under OCI's global regions. Which of the following approaches best addresses this deficiency and aligns with professional best practices for cloud database migration? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that includes detailed analysis of technical, operational, and business impacts, stakeholder consultations, and a review of data residency requirements in relation to OCI's regional offerings. Option B. Update the existing assessment by adding a brief section on potential performance concerns, without re-engaging key business stakeholders or re-evaluating data residency. Option C. Immediately proceed with the migration to meet the project deadline, assuming that any performance issues can be addressed post-migration through performance tuning. Option D. Delegate the responsibility for assessing downstream application impacts to the respective application teams, without a centralized coordination or validation process. Correct answer is A. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that includes detailed analysis of technical, operational, and business impacts, stakeholder consultations, and a review of data residency requirements in relation to OCI's regional offerings. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud database migration and integration projects, ensuring that the impact assessment accurately reflects the potential disruptions and resource requirements. The professional challenge lies in balancing the need for a comprehensive and realistic assessment with the pressures of project timelines and stakeholder expectations. A flawed impact assessment can lead to underestimation of resources, unexpected downtime, security vulnerabilities, and ultimately, project failure or significant cost overruns. Careful judgment is required to identify all potential impacts, from technical dependencies and performance degradation to data integrity and user experience. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic and thorough evaluation of all potential impacts across technical, operational, and business domains. This includes identifying dependencies on other systems, assessing the performance implications of migrating to the cloud, evaluating data security and compliance requirements, e.g., adherence to Oracle's cloud service agreements and relevant data protection regulations, and understanding the potential disruption to end users. A robust impact assessment will involve input from various stakeholders, including database administrators, application owners, security teams, and business users. This comprehensive approach ensures that risks are identified early, mitigation strategies can be developed, and realistic project plans and resource allocations are established, aligning with best practices for cloud adoption and data management, as outlined by Oracle and industry standards. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach might involve focusing solely on the technical aspects of database migration, such as schema compatibility and data transfer speeds, while neglecting the broader operational and business impacts. This failure to consider how the migration will affect application performance, user access, and business processes represents a significant regulatory and ethical lapse. It could lead to non-compliance with service-level agreements, SLAs, and a failure to meet business continuity objectives, potentially violating contractual obligations with Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI, and impacting customer trust. Another incorrect approach could be to rely on outdated or incomplete documentation for the source database and its dependencies. This lack of diligence in understanding the current environment can lead to unforeseen issues during migration, such as data corruption or integration failures. Ethically, it demonstrates a lack of professional responsibility to ensure data integrity and system stability. From a regulatory perspective, it could result in breaches of data privacy or security, if sensitive data is mishandled due to a poor understanding of its context and protection requirements within the OCI environment. A third incorrect approach might be to prioritize speed and cost savings over thorough testing and validation of the migrated database. This could involve skipping critical performance testing or security vulnerability assessments. Such an approach is professionally unacceptable as it directly compromises the integrity and security of the data, potentially leading to breaches that violate data protection regulations and Oracle's security policies. It also fails to uphold the professional duty to deliver a reliable and secure cloud database solution. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured, risk-based approach to impact assessment. This involves defining the scope of the assessment, identifying all relevant stakeholders, gathering information about the existing environment and the target OCI environment, analyzing potential impacts across various categories, and documenting findings and recommendations. The decision-making process should prioritize data integrity, security, compliance with Oracle's terms of service and relevant regulations, and the overall business objectives. Regular review and validation of the impact assessment with stakeholders are crucial to ensure its accuracy and completeness. Question 4. Research into the migration of a large, sensitive financial services database to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI, has revealed a critical implementation challenge. Ensuring the integrity and security of the data throughout the entire migration process, from initial extraction to final cutover, while adhering to stringent financial industry regulations. The organization requires a solution that minimizes downtime and data loss, but the paramount concern is maintaining the accuracy, completeness, and confidentiality of the financial data. Which of the following implementation approaches best addresses these requirements and aligns with professional best practices for cloud database migration in a regulated environment? Option A. Rely solely on comprehensive post-migration data reconciliation and business logic testing to identify and correct any data discrepancies or integrity issues that may have arisen during the migration. Option B. Form a direct, block-level copy of the entire database to OCI storage, followed by a quick database startup to expedite the migration and minimize downtime, with a brief post-migration data spot check. Option C. Disable all data encryption and security features during the migration process to maximize transfer speeds, with the intention of re-enabling them only after the migration is fully completed and verified. Option D. Implement a phased migration strategy utilizing OCI's native data migration tools, incorporating rigorous data validation checks, e.g., checksums, record counts, at each stage, and enforcing robust encryption and granular access controls for data both in transit and at rest. The correct answer is D. Implement a phased migration strategy utilizing OCI's native data migration tools, incorporating rigorous data validation checks, e.g., checksums, record counts at each stage, and enforcing robust encryption and granular access controls for data both in transit and at rest. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common but complex implementation challenge in cloud database migration, ensuring data integrity and compliance during a large-scale migration of sensitive financial data to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI. The challenge lies in balancing the need for rapid migration to meet business objectives with the absolute requirement to maintain data confidentiality, integrity, and availability, all while adhering to strict financial regulations. The sheer volume of data and the critical nature of financial transactions amplify the risk of data corruption, unauthorized access, or service disruption, which could lead to significant financial penalties, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach emphasizes a phased migration strategy with robust validation at each stage. This involves leveraging OCI's native data migration services, such as Oracle Data Pump or RMN, for efficient and reliable data transfer. Crucially, it mandates comprehensive data validation checks, including checksums, record counts, and business-specific data integrity rules, both before and after migration. Implementing granular access controls and encryption, both in transit and at rest, aligns with best practices for protecting sensitive financial data. This approach ensures that data remains accurate, complete, and secure throughout the migration lifecycle, directly addressing regulatory requirements for data protection and auditability. Incorrect approach is analysis, an approach that prioritizes speed by performing a direct, unvalidated copy of the database without intermediate checks introduces a high risk of data corruption. This failure to validate data integrity is a direct contravention of regulatory requirements for accurate financial reporting and data stewardship. It also bypasses essential security measures, potentially exposing sensitive data. Another incorrect approach might involve disabling security features like encryption during the migration to supposedly speed up the process. This is a severe regulatory and ethical failure, as it leaves sensitive financial data vulnerable to interception and unauthorized access, violating data privacy laws and financial industry regulations. Finally, an approach that relies solely on post-migration testing without pre-migration validation or continuous monitoring during the transfer is insufficient. While post-migration testing is important, it does not prevent data corruption from occurring during the migration itself. This reactive approach fails to meet the proactive data integrity and security mandates of financial regulations. Professional reasoning. Professionals must adopt a risk-based approach, prioritizing data integrity and security throughout the migration process. This involves thorough planning, selecting appropriate OCI migration tools, implementing robust validation mechanisms at every step, and ensuring continuous monitoring. Adherence to regulatory frameworks, such as those governing financial data protection and privacy, should be the guiding principle. Decision-making should be informed by a deep understanding of OCI's capabilities, potential risks, and the specific compliance obligations of the organization. Question 5. Compliance review shows that a critical financial services database migration to Oracle Cloud infrastructure is experiencing significant performance degradation post-cutover, impacting transaction processing times and regulatory reporting deadlines. The project team prioritized rapid deployment over in-depth pre-migration performance tuning. Which of the following optimization strategies, if implemented proactively and systematically during the migration planning and execution phases, would have best mitigated these issues and ensured adherence to best practices for process optimization in cloud database environments? Option A. Deferring all database performance tuning and optimization efforts until after the initial go-live, assuming the cloud environment will inherently improve performance. Option B. Conducting a comprehensive pre-migration performance baseline analysis, identifying and optimizing inefficient SQL queries and database schema designs, and configuring Oracle Cloud infrastructure resources, e.g., OCPU count, storage IOPS, based on workload requirements. Option C. Relying solely on the automatic performance tuning features of Oracle Autonomous Database after the migration is complete to address any performance bottlenecks. Option D. Implementing a basic data migration with minimal schema adjustments and focusing all subsequent optimization efforts on application-level code changes. Correct answer is B. Conducting a comprehensive pre-migration performance baseline analysis, identifying and optimizing inefficient SQL queries and database schema designs, and configuring Oracle Cloud infrastructure resources, e.g., OCPU count, storage IOPS, based on workload requirements. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud database migration and integration projects, balancing the imperative for rapid deployment with the non-negotiable requirement for robust process optimization to ensure data integrity, security, and compliance. The pressure to deliver quickly can lead to shortcuts that, while seemingly efficient in the short term, can introduce significant risks and long-term operational inefficiencies. Professionals must navigate this tension by prioritizing foundational optimization steps that enable sustainable performance and adherence to regulatory standards, rather than solely focusing on speed. The challenge lies in identifying and implementing optimization strategies that are both effective and compliant within the Oracle Cloud Database 2023 migration and integration professional framework. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic and phased implementation of process optimization, starting with a thorough assessment of the existing database environment and the target cloud architecture. This includes analyzing query performance, identifying inefficient SQL statements, optimizing indexing strategies, and reviewing database configuration parameters. For cloud migration and integration, this also extends to evaluating network latency, data transfer methods, and the optimal configuration of Oracle Cloud infrastructure. OSI services like Autonomous Database or Exadata Cloud Service, implementing automated performance tuning tools and continuous monitoring mechanisms are crucial. This approach represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the core principles of process optimization as mandated by the exam's focus on efficiency and reliability. It ensures that the migration and integration are not just functional, but also performant, scalable, and cost-effective in the long run. Adherence to Oracle's best practices for cloud database management, which are implicitly part of the exam scope, is also a key outcome. This proactive and data-driven optimization minimizes the risk of performance degradation, security vulnerabilities, and unexpected operational costs post-migration. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to defer all performance tuning and optimization to post-migration, assuming that the cloud environment will automatically resolve any existing issues. This is a significant regulatory and ethical failure because it disregards the principle of due diligence in data management and migration. It risks migrating inefficient processes that could lead to performance bottlenecks, increased cloud resource consumption, and thus higher costs, and potential data access delays, which could have compliance implications depending on the data's criticality and access requirements. Another incorrect approach is to solely rely on default cloud service configurations without any custom optimization. While cloud providers offer robust defaults, they are often generic and may not be tailored to the specific workload characteristics of the migrated database. This can lead to suboptimal performance, increased operational overhead, and failure to leverage the full potential of the cloud platform, thereby not meeting the efficiency goals expected in process optimization. Ethically, it represents a failure to provide the most efficient and cost-effective solution for the client or organization. A third incorrect approach is to prioritize the migration speed over thorough testing of optimized processes. This can result in deploying a database that is not adequately optimized, leading to performance issues, increased error rates, and potential data corruption or loss during peak loads. This is a critical failure in professional responsibility, as it compromises the integrity and reliability of the database system, potentially violating service-level agreements and regulatory requirements related to data availability and accuracy. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured, iterative approach to process optimization during cloud database migration and integration. This involves 1. Understanding the current state. Thoroughly analyze the existing database workload, performance metrics, and identify areas for improvement. 2. Defining target state objectives. Clearly articulate performance, scalability, security, and cost goals for the cloud environment. 3. Developing an optimization plan. Prioritize optimization tasks based on impact and feasibility, considering both database-level tuning and cloud infrastructure configuration. 4. Implementing and testing. Execute optimization strategies in a controlled environment, rigorously testing performance and functionality. 5. Monitoring and continuous improvement. Establish ongoing monitoring to detect performance drift and implement further optimizations as needed. This systematic process ensures that optimization is an integral part of the migration and integration lifecycle, leading to a robust, efficient, and compliant cloud database solution. Question 6. Strategic planning requires a comprehensive assessment of regulatory obligations when migrating sensitive data to Oracle Cloud infrastructure, specifically concerning data residency and privacy mandates within the United States. Which of the following approaches best ensures compliance with U.S. federal regulations throughout the migration and integration process? Option A. Expedite the migration by deferring detailed regulatory review until after the data is fully operational in the cloud, addressing any compliance gaps reactively. Option B. Rely solely on Oracle Cloud's default security settings, trusting that they are universally compliant with all U.S. federal data privacy laws without explicit verification. Option C. Proceed with the migration to the most cost-effective Oracle Cloud region, assuming that Oracle's global infrastructure inherently meets U.S. data residency requirements. Option D. Prioritize a detailed mapping of U.S. federal data residency and privacy regulations to specific Oracle Cloud services and configurations, involving legal and compliance teams to validate adherence before and during migration. The correct answer is D. Prioritize a detailed mapping of U.S. federal data residency and privacy regulations to specific Oracle Cloud services and configurations, involving legal and compliance teams to validate adherence before and during migration. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between rapid cloud adoption and the stringent regulatory requirements for data residency and privacy, particularly within the context of Oracle Cloud database migration and integration. The professional must navigate the technical complexities of migration while ensuring absolute adherence to the specified regulatory framework, which in this exam's context is assumed to be U.S. federal regulations governing sensitive data. The core challenge lies in balancing the perceived benefits of cloud elasticity and scalability with the non-negotiable mandates of data sovereignty and compliance. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough understanding and explicit mapping of regulatory requirements to the chosen Oracle Cloud services and their configurations. This proactive, compliance-first strategy ensures that data residency is maintained within the designated U.S. geographical boundaries, and that data protection measures align with relevant U.S. federal laws such as HIPAA, if applicable to the data type, or other data privacy acts. By engaging legal and compliance teams early, the professional demonstrates a commitment to ethical data handling and avoids costly remediation or legal repercussions. This aligns with the professional responsibility to protect sensitive information and uphold the integrity of the organization's data governance. An incorrect approach that involves migrating data to a cloud region outside the U.S., even if it offers perceived cost or performance advantages, represents a significant regulatory failure. This directly violates data residency requirements, potentially exposing the organization to severe penalties under U.S. federal law for unauthorized data transfer and noncompliance with data sovereignty mandates. Another incorrect approach, which is to assume that Oracle Cloud's default security configurations are sufficient without explicit validation against specific U.S. federal regulatory mandates, is also professionally unacceptable. While Oracle Cloud offers robust security features, regulatory compliance often requires specific configurations, audit trails, and data handling procedures that may not be enabled by default. Failing to verify and tailor these settings to meet explicit legal obligations constitutes a breach of due diligence and a failure to protect sensitive data according to established legal standards. The professional reasoning process should involve a phased approach. First, a comprehensive review of all applicable U.S. federal regulations and their specific implications for data residency and privacy. Second, an assessment of Oracle Cloud services and their capabilities to meet these requirements, including data center locations and security controls. Third, a detailed mapping of regulatory controls to technical implementations, documented thoroughly. Finally, ongoing monitoring and auditing to ensure continuous compliance throughout the migration and integration lifecycle. This structured, risk-aware methodology ensures that technical decisions are always underpinned by regulatory imperatives. Question 7. Which approach would be most effective in conducting a comprehensive impact assessment for migrating an on-premises Oracle database to Oracle Cloud infrastructure, considering potential disruptions to existing applications and integration points? Option A. A phased approach involving initial broad discovery of all interconnected systems, followed by detailed analysis of critical components, dependencies, and integration points, with validation from business and technical stakeholders. Option B. Conducting the impact assessment based on historical migration data and anecdotal evidence from previous projects, without performing current system-specific analysis. Option C. Prioritizing the assessment of only the most critical database servers, assuming that less critical systems will have minimal impact. Option D. Relying solely on automated cloud migration assessment tools provided by Oracle, without significant manual review or stakeholder consultation. The correct answer is A. A phased approach involving initial broad discovery of all interconnected systems, followed by detailed analysis of critical components, dependencies, and integration points, with validation from business and technical stakeholders. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud database migration, ensuring that the impact assessment accurately reflects the potential disruptions and resource needs without over- or underestimating them. The professional challenge lies in balancing the need for comprehensive data gathering with the practical constraints of time and resources, while adhering to Oracle's best practices and the implicit regulatory expectation of due diligence in cloud deployments. A thorough impact assessment is critical for project success, budget adherence, and minimizing operational downtime, all of which have downstream implications for business continuity and compliance. Correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a phased, data-driven methodology. It begins with a broad discovery to identify all relevant systems and dependencies, followed by a detailed analysis of critical components. This systematic process ensures that all potential impacts on performance, security, availability, and integration points are identified and quantified. By involving stakeholders from various departments, it also ensures that the assessment considers the business context and user experience, not just technical aspects. This aligns with Oracle's recommended migration methodologies, which emphasize thorough planning and risk mitigation. Furthermore, a comprehensive assessment supports informed decision-making regarding resource allocation, migration strategies, and contingency planning, thereby upholding professional responsibility and minimizing unforeseen risks. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on automated tooling without human validation would fail to capture nuanced dependencies or business-specific requirements. This could lead to an incomplete understanding of the impact, potentially resulting in unexpected performance degradation or integration failures post-migration. Ethically, this represents a failure in due diligence, as it relies on an incomplete picture. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed over thoroughness, by only assessing a subset of critical systems, risks overlooking significant dependencies or integration points that could cause widespread disruption. This is a regulatory and ethical failure, because it exposes the organization to undue risk and potential noncompliance with service-level agreements or data integrity requirements. An approach that relies heavily on anecdotal evidence or past experiences without current data validation is also flawed. This lacks the rigor required for a modern cloud migration and can lead to significant miscalculations in resource needs and migration timelines, potentially violating professional standards of care and leading to project failure. The professional reasoning process for such situations should involve a structured, iterative approach. Start by defining the scope and objectives of the impact assessment. Then, identify and gather relevant data from various sources, including system inventories, performance metrics, and stakeholder interviews. Employ a combination of automated tools and manual analysis to identify dependencies, assess risks, and estimate resource requirements. Crucially, validate findings with stakeholders and subject matter experts. Finally, document the assessment thoroughly, including assumptions, limitations, and recommended mitigation strategies. This systematic process ensures that decisions are based on robust evidence and align with professional standards and organizational objectives. Question 8. The review process indicates that a critical Oracle database containing sensitive customer information is slated for migration to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI. To ensure a compliant and secure transition, which of the following assessment strategies best aligns with the principles of responsible cloud adoption and data governance within the context of Oracle Cloud Services? Option A. Prioritize a technical assessment focusing solely on database compatibility, performance tuning for OCI, and network bandwidth requirements, assuming OCI's inherent security features will adequately protect the data. Option B. Delegate the entire impact assessment to the cloud provider's account management team, relying on their standard checklists and assurances regarding security and compliance. Option C. Focus the impact assessment primarily on cost optimization and the potential for reduced operational overhead, with minimal consideration for data security or regulatory adherence beyond basic contractual obligations. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that includes technical feasibility, security controls, data privacy implications, regulatory compliance checks against relevant data protection laws, and potential business process disruption. The correct answer is A. Prioritize a technical assessment focusing solely on database compatibility, performance tuning for OCI, and network bandwidth requirements, assuming OCI's inherent security features will adequately protect the data. Explanation. The review process indicates a need to assess the impact of migrating an Oracle database to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OSI. This scenario is professionally challenging because a successful migration requires not only technical expertise, but also a thorough understanding of potential business disruptions, security implications, and compliance requirements. Overlooking any of these aspects can lead to significant financial losses, reputational damage, and regulatory penalties. The core of the challenge lies in balancing the benefits of cloud adoption with the risks inherent in such a transformation. The correct approach involves a comprehensive impact assessment that meticulously evaluates all facets of the migration. This includes analyzing the technical feasibility, performance implications, security controls, data privacy considerations, and the potential impact on existing business processes and applications. It also necessitates understanding the specific regulatory framework governing data handling and cloud services within the relevant jurisdiction. For the 1Z0-1094-23 exam, this implies adherence to Oracle's best practices for cloud migration and integration, and any applicable Oracle Cloud Service agreements or compliance documentation. This approach represents best professional practice because it proactively identifies and mitigates risks, ensuring a smooth transition, minimizing downtime, and maintaining compliance with data protection laws and industry standards. It aligns with the principle of due diligence, which is a cornerstone of responsible IT project management and a key ethical consideration in professional conduct. An incorrect approach would be to solely focus on the technical aspects of the migration, such as database compatibility and network connectivity, while neglecting the broader business and compliance implications. This failure to conduct a holistic impact assessment is a significant regulatory and ethical lapse. It could lead to non-compliance with data residency requirements, inadequate data protection measures, or a failure to meet service-level agreements, SLAs, all of which can result in legal repercussions and financial penalties. Another incorrect approach is to assume that cloud provider security is sufficient without performing an independent assessment of data security and access controls within the OCI environment. This oversight can lead to data breaches and violations of privacy regulations, such as those related to personal data protection. Furthermore, a reactive approach, where impacts are only addressed after they occur, is professionally unacceptable. It demonstrates a lack of foresight and a disregard for the potential harm to the organization and its stakeholders. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured, phased approach. First, clearly define the scope and objectives of the migration. Second, assemble a cross-functional team with expertise in technical, security, legal, and business domains. Third, conduct a detailed risk assessment, identifying potential threats and vulnerabilities. Fourth, develop a mitigation plan for each identified risk. Fifth, establish clear communication channels with all stakeholders. Finally, continuously monitor and review the migration process and its impact, making adjustments as necessary. This systematic process ensures that all critical factors are considered, leading to a more robust and compliant migration. Question 9. The analysis reveals that a critical Oracle Cloud database is slated for migration to a new cloud region. To ensure a smooth transition and minimize business disruption, what is the most comprehensive approach to assessing the potential impact of this migration? Option A. Focus primarily on benchmarking the performance of the new cloud environment against the existing one, assuming data integrity and security will be handled by automated migration tools. Option B. Prioritize the speed of the migration by performing minimal testing and relying on rollback procedures as the primary risk mitigation strategy. Option C. Delegate the impact assessment solely to the development team, as they are most familiar with the database's technical aspects. Option D. Conduct a thorough impact assessment that includes technical performance metrics, data integrity checks, security vulnerability scans, and an evaluation of downstream application dependencies and business process continuity. Correct answer is D. Conduct a thorough impact assessment that includes technical performance metrics, data integrity checks, security vulnerability scans, and an evaluation of downstream application dependencies and business process continuity. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent complexity of assessing the impact of migrating a critical Oracle Cloud database to a new environment. The challenge lies in identifying all potential downstream effects on integrated applications, data integrity, performance, security, and business continuity, while adhering to the specific regulatory framework relevant to Oracle Cloud Database 2023 migration and integration professional. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the migration process minimizes disruption and maintains compliance. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it systematically identifies and quantifies potential risks and impacts across all relevant domains. This aligns with the principles of due diligence and risk management expected in professional IT engagements. Specifically, it ensures that all stakeholders are informed, that mitigation strategies are developed proactively, and that the migration aligns with business objectives and regulatory requirements, thereby safeguarding data integrity and operational continuity. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on technical performance metrics without considering data security implications would be professionally unacceptable. This failure would violate ethical obligations to protect sensitive data and potentially contravene regulatory mandates regarding data privacy and security. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed of migration over thorough testing and validation would risk data corruption or service outages, leading to significant business disruption and potential noncompliance with service-level agreements and industry standards. A third incorrect approach that neglects to involve key business stakeholders in the impact assessment process would result in a migration that does not meet business needs or adequately address operational concerns, leading to user dissatisfaction and potential business process failures. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making framework that begins with a comprehensive understanding of the project's scope and objectives. This framework should include a detailed risk assessment methodology, stakeholder engagement protocols, and a robust testing and validation plan. Prioritizing a holistic impact assessment that considers technical, business, security, and compliance aspects is crucial. When evaluating different approaches, professionals must ask, does this approach proactively identify and mitigate risks? Does it ensure compliance with relevant regulations? Does it align with business objectives and stakeholder expectations? Does it prioritize data integrity and security? Question 10. Benchmark analysis indicates that the current Oracle Cloud database migration process is experiencing significant delays, impacting the project timeline and incurring unexpected resource costs. The professional team needs to optimize this process to improve efficiency and reduce execution time. Option A. Temporarily disable data validation and integrity checks during the migration to expedite the data loading phase, with the intention of performing a full data reconciliation post-migration. Option B. Implement a series of uncoordinated, ad hoc modifications to the migration scripts and configurations based on anecdotal evidence from team members, without prior testing or rollback strategy. Option C. Conduct a detailed performance analysis of the migration scripts, network throughput, and data transformation logic, leveraging Oracle Cloud infrastructure, monitoring tools, and migration best practices to identify specific bottlenecks before implementing any changes. Option D. Immediately scale up the compute and storage resources allocated to the migration environment to accelerate data transfer and processing, assuming hardware limitations are the primary cause of the delays. The correct answer is C. Conduct a detailed performance analysis of the migration scripts, network throughput, and data transformation logic, leveraging Oracle Cloud infrastructure monitoring tools and migration best practices to identify specific bottlenecks before implementing any changes. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud database migration and integration, balancing the need for rapid deployment with the imperative to maintain data integrity and compliance. The professional is tasked with optimizing a migration process that has shown performance bottlenecks. The challenge lies in identifying the root cause of these bottlenecks without introducing new risks or violating regulatory requirements specific to Oracle Cloud Database 2023 migration and integration. The pressure to deliver a faster migration, coupled with potential cost implications of prolonged downtime or inefficient resource utilization, necessitates a methodical and informed approach. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the migration plan, focusing on identifying and addressing specific performance bottlenecks within the Oracle Cloud Database migration and integration framework. This includes analyzing the execution logs, network latency, resource utilization on both source and target environments, and the efficiency of data transformation and loading processes. By leveraging Oracle-specific tools and best practices for cloud migration, such as Oracle Data Pump, SQL Asterisk Loader, or Oracle Golden Gate, and aligning these with the exam's focus on process optimization, the professional can pinpoint areas for improvement. This approach is best professional practice because it is data-driven, minimizes disruption, and adheres to the principles of efficient and secure cloud migration as outlined in Oracle's recommended methodologies and the 1Z0-1094-23 exam objectives. It prioritizes understanding the existing process before making changes, ensuring that optimizations are targeted and effective. Incorrect approach is analysis, an approach that immediately resorts to increasing hardware resources without a thorough analysis of the existing process is professionally unacceptable. This is because it fails to address the potential inefficiencies within the migration scripts, network configuration, or data handling logic. Such a brute force method can lead to unnecessary costs and may not resolve the underlying issue, potentially masking deeper problems. From a regulatory and ethical standpoint, this approach demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for resource optimization, which can be implicitly or explicitly covered by guidelines promoting efficient and cost-effective cloud adoption. Another incorrect approach would be to bypass established data validation checks to speed up the migration. This is a critical regulatory and ethical failure. Data integrity is paramount, and any compromise in validation processes can lead to data corruption, inaccuracies, and non-compliance with data governance policies. This directly violates the principle of maintaining data trustworthiness, a core tenet of database management and cloud migration. A third incorrect approach is to implement changes to the migration process without proper testing or rollback plans. This introduces significant risk of system failure, data loss, and extended downtime. Professionally, this is irresponsible as it disregards risk management protocols. Ethically, it can lead to business disruption and financial losses for the organization, failing to uphold the professional duty of care. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured problem-solving methodology. This begins with a comprehensive understanding of the current process and its performance metrics. Next, identify potential bottlenecks through detailed analysis of logs, performance counters, and execution plans. Formulate hypotheses about the root causes and design targeted experiments or modifications to address these. Implement changes incrementally, with robust testing and rollback capabilities. Continuously monitor performance and validate data integrity throughout the process. This iterative and analytical approach ensures that optimizations are effective, risks are mitigated, and compliance with Oracle Cloud best practices and any relevant data governance frameworks is maintained. Question 11. Strategic planning requires a meticulous approach to migrating a critical financial applications database to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OSI, ensuring both operational continuity and adherence to stringent data privacy regulations. Considering the sensitive nature of financial data, which migration strategy best balances efficiency with the absolute necessity of data integrity and regulatory compliance? Option A. A lift and shift approach to minimize downtime, followed by post-migration data integrity checks. Option B. A migration focused solely on speed and cost reduction, utilizing automated tools with minimal human oversight. Option C. A phased migration strategy incorporating pre-migration assessments, pilot migrations, comprehensive post-migration testing, and a defined rollback plan. Option D. A migration prioritizing the use of the fastest available automated tools, with a plan to address compliance issues post-migration. The correct answer is C. A phased migration strategy incorporating pre-migration assessments, pilot migrations, comprehensive post-migration testing, and a defined rollback plan. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud database migration and integration, balancing the need for rapid deployment with the imperative of ensuring data integrity and compliance. The professional must navigate the complexities of migrating a critical financial applications database to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OSI, while adhering to strict data privacy regulations and maintaining operational continuity. The challenge lies in selecting a migration strategy that minimizes downtime, preserves data accuracy, and meets all regulatory requirements without introducing new vulnerabilities or performance bottlenecks. The pressure to deliver quickly can tempt shortcuts, but the sensitive nature of financial data and the potential for severe financial and reputational damage from data breaches or compliance failures demand a meticulous and compliant approach. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased migration strategy that prioritizes data validation and security throughout the process. This includes thorough pre-migration assessment, a pilot migration with a subset of data, comprehensive post-migration testing, including functional, performance, and security testing, and a robust rollback plan. This methodology aligns with best practices for cloud migration and is implicitly supported by regulatory frameworks that mandate data protection and business continuity. For instance, in the U.S., regulations like the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act (GLBA) and the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act (HIPAA), though not directly financial, they set precedents for data protection, emphasize the need for secure data handling and risk mitigation. The phased approach allows for continuous validation against regulatory requirements and minimizes the impact of any unforeseen issues, thereby upholding professional responsibility and ensuring compliance. Incorrect approaches analysis. A lift and shift approach without rigorous validation and testing poses significant regulatory and ethical risks. It fails to adequately address potential data corruption during the transfer or incompatibilities with the new cloud environment, which could lead to data breaches or non-compliance with data integrity mandates. This approach neglects the due diligence required by data protection laws. Implementing a migration solely based on speed and cost reduction, without a comprehensive security review or a defined rollback strategy, is also professionally unsound. This overlooks the regulatory obligation to protect sensitive data and ensure business continuity. The potential for data loss or unauthorized access due to inadequate security measures directly contravenes data privacy regulations and ethical obligations to safeguard client information. Relying on automated migration tools without human oversight and validation, especially for a critical financial application, is another failure. While automation can enhance efficiency, it cannot replace the critical judgment required to ensure data accuracy, security, and regulatory adherence. Over-reliance on automation without validation can lead to subtle errors that go undetected, potentially resulting in compliance violations and data integrity issues. Professional reasoning. Professionals must adopt a risk-based approach, prioritizing data security, integrity, and regulatory compliance above all else, especially when dealing with sensitive data. This involves a thorough understanding of applicable regulations, e.g., those governing financial data in the relevant jurisdiction, conducting comprehensive assessments, planning for contingencies, and implementing robust testing and validation procedures at every stage of the migration. A structured, phased approach that allows for continuous verification against compliance requirements and business objectives is paramount. Professionals should always maintain a clear audit trail of all migration activities and decisions to demonstrate due diligence and adherence to standards. Question 12. During the evaluation of a critical Oracle database migration to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, the project team discovers that a significant portion of the data contains sensitive customer personally identifiable information, PI. The migration timeline is aggressive, and the technical lead suggests proceeding with the migration using the existing data structure, with the understanding that data masking and anonymization will be addressed post-migration as a separate phase. What is the most ethically and regulatorily sound approach? Option A. Proceed with the migration as planned, relying on the cloud provider's inherent security features to protect the data, and address data masking and anonymization in a subsequent, less time-constrained phase. Option B. Migrate only the non-sensitive data first, and then plan a separate, more detailed migration for the sensitive data with masking, accepting the delay this will cause to the overall project timeline. Option C. Migrate the data without masking, but prioritize the security of the network connection and access controls during the migration to mitigate immediate risks. Option D. Halt the migration immediately and implement robust data masking and anonymization techniques for all sensitive PII before resuming the migration process, ensuring all steps are documented and compliant with relevant U.S. data privacy laws. The correct answer is D. Halt the migration immediately and implement robust data masking and anonymization techniques for all sensitive PII before resuming the migration process, ensuring all steps are documented and compliant with relevant U.S. data privacy laws. Explanation. The scenario presents an ethical dilemma concerning data privacy and compliance during a cloud database migration. The challenge lies in balancing the urgency of migration with the strict regulatory requirements of data protection, specifically within the context of Oracle Cloud Database 2023 Migration and Integration Professional, which implies adherence to U.S. federal and state data privacy laws. The professional must navigate potential conflicts between business objectives and legal obligations. The correct approach prioritizes adherence to established data privacy regulations, such as the California Consumer Privacy Act, CCPA, or similar U.S. federal laws, by ensuring all data handling during migration is compliant. This involves thorough data classification, anonymization or pseudonymization where appropriate, and secure transfer mechanisms, all documented and auditable. This represents best professional practice because it upholds legal mandates, protects sensitive information, and maintains client trust. It aligns with the principle of privacy by design and demonstrates a commitment to responsible data stewardship, which is crucial for long-term business sustainability and avoiding severe legal penalties. An incorrect approach that involves proceeding with the migration without fully understanding or implementing data masking for sensitive customer information would be a significant regulatory failure. This directly violates data privacy laws that mandate the protection of personally identifiable information, PI. Another incorrect approach, such as selectively applying security measures only to data that is immediately visible, neglects the broader scope of data protection required during a migration, potentially leaving other sensitive data vulnerable and non-compliant. A third incorrect approach, relying solely on the cloud provider's default security settings without independent verification and customization for specific data types and regulatory needs, is also a failure. This abdicates responsibility for due diligence and can lead to non-compliance if the default settings do not meet the specific requirements of the data being migrated and the applicable regulations. Professionals should employ a risk-based decision-making framework. This involves identifying all applicable regulations, assessing the sensitivity of the data being migrated, evaluating potential risks associated with different migration strategies, and implementing controls commensurate with those risks. Transparency with stakeholders regarding data handling practices and obtaining necessary approvals before proceeding are also critical components of this framework. Question 13. The audit findings indicate that the recently migrated Oracle database to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI, may not fully comply with data residency regulations for sensitive customer information. The organization operates under a jurisdiction that mandates all personal data to be stored and processed within its geographical borders. The migration team primarily focused on achieving functional parity and performance improvements in the OCI environment. Which of the following actions best addresses the identified data residency compliance gap? Option A. Prioritize completing the remaining migration tasks and address the data residency concern in a subsequent post-migration review, as the immediate focus was on operational readiness. Option B. Rely on the general compliance documentation provided by Oracle for OCI, without verifying the specific deployment region and its adherence to the organization's unique jurisdictional requirements. Option C. Assume that OCI's global infrastructure inherently ensures compliance with all data residency regulations, as the provider is responsible for data sovereignty. Option D. Review OCI service configurations and the selected OCI region to confirm that the database and associated data processing activities are confined to the legally mandated geographical boundaries, and adjust configurations if necessary. The correct answer is D. Review OCI service configurations and the selected OCI region to confirm that the database and associated data processing activities are confined to the legally mandated geographical boundaries, and adjust configurations if necessary. Explanation. Scenario analysis. The audit findings highlight a critical gap in data residency compliance during a cloud database migration. This scenario is professionally challenging because it directly impacts the organization's adherence to regulatory requirements, potentially leading to significant legal penalties, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. The core challenge lies in balancing the technical demands of a cloud migration with the stringent legal obligations concerning data location and processing. The professional must navigate complex technical configurations and understand the legal implications of data flow across geographical boundaries, ensuring that the chosen cloud services and configurations meet all applicable regulations. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the Oracle Cloud infrastructure, OSI, services, and their data residency capabilities, specifically focusing on the chosen region's compliance with the relevant jurisdiction's data protection laws. This includes verifying that the OCI region selected for hosting the migrated database is within the legally permissible geographical boundaries for the type of data being handled. Furthermore, it necessitates confirming that any data processing or backup operations also adhere to these residency requirements, potentially by utilizing OCI features like data residency controls or region-specific service deployments. This approach represents best professional practice because it proactively addresses the identified audit finding by ensuring technical implementation aligns with legal mandates. It demonstrates due diligence in understanding and applying the principles of data sovereignty and residency as stipulated by the governing regulations, thereby mitigating risk and ensuring compliance. Incorrect approaches analysis. An incorrect approach would be to assume that simply migrating to OCI automatically satisfies data residency requirement without explicit verification. This fails to acknowledge that OCI, like any cloud provider, offers services that can be deployed globally, and the responsibility lies with the customer to configure them in compliance with their specific jurisdictional obligations. Another incorrect approach would be to prioritize migration speed or cost savings over data residency compliance. This is a significant regulatory and ethical failure, as it knowingly or negligently disregards legal requirements, potentially exposing the organization to severe penalties. Relying solely on the cloud provider's general statements about compliance without verifying specific service configurations for the chosen region is also a failure. It overlooks the granular nature of data residency, which often depends on the specific OCI region selected and the configuration of services within that region. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such audit findings should adopt a structured decision-making process. First, they must clearly identify the specific regulatory requirements pertaining to data residency for the data in question and the relevant jurisdiction. Second, they need to understand the capabilities and limitations of the OCI services being used or considered for migration, particularly regarding data location and processing. Third, they should engage with OCI documentation and support, if necessary, to confirm how specific services can be configured to meet residency mandates. Fourth, a risk assessment should be conducted to evaluate the potential consequences of non-compliance. Finally, the chosen migration strategy and technical implementation must be documented and validated to ensure ongoing adherence to regulatory obligations. Question 14. The assessment process reveals that an organization is planning to migrate its critical Oracle Cloud database to a new geographical region to leverage improved performance and cost efficiencies. The migration involves a complex application ecosystem that relies heavily on this database. Which of the following approaches to assessing the impact of this migration best aligns with professional best practices and regulatory considerations for Oracle Cloud Database 2023 Migration and Integration Professional? Option A. Conduct a high-level review of database resource utilization and estimate potential network latency changes, assuming application dependencies will be managed by the application teams independently. Option B. Rely exclusively on the default migration templates provided by Oracle Cloud Infrastructure without any custom analysis, as these are designed to cover all common scenarios. Option C. Focus solely on the technical aspects of database migration, such as schema compatibility and data transfer speeds, and assume that any application-level issues will be resolved post-migration. Option D. Perform a detailed, end-to-end impact assessment that maps all application dependencies, analyzes data sensitivity and compliance requirements for the target region, evaluates network and security configurations, and includes stakeholder validation from all affected business units. The correct answer is A. Conduct a high-level review of database resource utilization and estimate potential network latency changes, assuming application dependencies will be managed by the application teams independently. Explanation. The assessment process reveals a critical need to evaluate the impact of migrating an Oracle Cloud database to a new region. This scenario is professionally challenging because a poorly executed impact assessment can lead to significant business disruption, data loss, compliance violations, and increased operational costs. The complexity arises from understanding interdependencies between the database, applications, network infrastructure, and security policies, all within the context of Oracle Cloud-specific services and the regulatory landscape governing data residency and privacy. The correct approach involves a comprehensive, multifaceted impact assessment that meticulously documents all potential effects across technical, operational, and business domains. This includes identifying all dependent applications, understanding data sensitivity and compliance requirements, e.g., GDPR, CCPA, or relevant Oracle Cloud Service level agreements, assessing network latency and bandwidth needs, and planning for security configurations in the new region. This approach represents best professional practice because it proactively identifies risks and mitigation strategies, ensuring a smooth migration with minimal downtime and adherence to all applicable regulations. It aligns with the principles of responsible cloud adoption and data governance, which are paramount in professional database management. An incorrect approach of performing a superficial assessment, focusing only on the database server itself, would be a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This oversight would likely lead to application failures due to unmet dependencies, data corruption if migration processes are not validated against all data types, and potential breaches of data privacy regulations if data residency requirements are not met in the new region. Another incorrect approach, such as relying solely on vendor-provided migration tools without independent validation, risks overlooking critical configuration nuances specific to the organization's environment and regulatory obligations. This could result in non-compliance with data sovereignty laws or security standards, leading to reputational damage and legal repercussions. A third incorrect approach, neglecting to involve key stakeholders from application development, security, and business units, would result in a fragmented understanding of the migration's true impact, leading to unforeseen issues and a lack of buy-in, ultimately jeopardizing the project's success and potentially violating internal governance policies. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making framework that prioritizes thoroughness and risk mitigation. This involves defining clear assessment objectives, identifying all stakeholders, mapping all system components and their dependencies, evaluating potential impacts against business continuity and compliance requirements, and developing detailed mitigation and rollback plans. Regular reviews and validation throughout the assessment process are crucial to ensure accuracy and completeness. Question 15. The monitoring system demonstrates a consistent pattern of high resource utilization on the Oracle Cloud database during peak operational hours, leading to performance degradation and increased latency for critical business applications. Which of the following actions is the most appropriate initial response to address this situation? Option A. Disable database monitoring to reduce system overhead and improve perceived performance. Option B. Ignore the monitoring alerts, assuming the performance degradation is a temporary anomaly. Option C. Analyze query performance and optimize inefficient SQL statements identified as consuming excessive resources. Option D. Immediately scale up the database instance to a larger compute and storage configuration. Correct answer is C. Analyze query performance and optimize inefficient SQL statements identified as consuming excessive resources. Explanation. The monitoring system demonstrates a consistent pattern of high resource utilization on the Oracle Cloud database during peak operational hours, leading to performance degradation and increased latency for critical business applications. This scenario is professionally challenging because it directly impacts business operations and customer experience, requiring a swift and effective resolution that balances performance, cost, and adherence to best practices. The challenge lies in identifying the root cause of the utilization spikes and implementing a solution that is both technically sound and compliant with Oracle Cloud's operational guidelines, and potentially any relevant data governance policies that might indirectly influence resource allocation and performance. The correct approach, which involves analyzing query performance and optimizing inefficient SQL statements, represents best professional practice because it addresses the fundamental cause of resource contention. Inefficient queries consume excessive CPU, I/O, and memory, directly contributing to performance bottlenecks. Optimizing these queries reduces resource consumption, leading to improved database performance, lower operational costs, and a more stable environment. This aligns with the principles of efficient cloud resource management and ensures the database is performing optimally within its allocated resources, a key aspect of the 1Z0-1094-23 exam objectives. An incorrect approach of simply scaling up the database instance without investigation is professionally unacceptable. This approach fails to address the underlying issue of inefficient code and represents a costly, short-term fix. It can lead to unnecessary expenditure on cloud resources, violating cost optimization principles. Ethically, it could be seen as a failure to exercise due diligence in managing cloud resources responsibly. Another incorrect approach, which is to ignore the monitoring alerts and assume the performance degradation is temporary, is also professionally unacceptable. This passive stance can lead to prolonged periods of poor performance, impacting business productivity, customer satisfaction, and potentially leading to data integrity issues or service outages. It demonstrates a lack of proactive problem solving and a disregard for system health, which is a critical failure in professional database management. Finally, an incorrect approach of disabling monitoring to reduce system overhead is fundamentally flawed. Monitoring is essential for understanding system behavior, identifying issues, and ensuring security and compliance. Disabling it creates a blind spot, making it impossible to detect future problems or verify the effectiveness of any implemented solutions. This is a direct contravention of best practices for cloud operations and a significant ethical lapse in professional responsibility. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic approach. First, thoroughly analyze the monitoring data to understand the nature and scope of the problem. Second, prioritize potential causes based on their impact and likelihood. Third, investigate the most probable causes through detailed diagnostics, such as query performance analysis. Fourth, develop and implement solutions that address the root cause, considering performance, cost, and operational impact. Finally, continuously monitor the system to validate the effectiveness of the solution and prevent recurrence. Question 16. The evaluation methodology shows that a critical phase of an Oracle Cloud database migration project involves ensuring that sensitive customer data remains within the designated geographic regions, as stipulated by contractual agreements and applicable data protection laws. When planning the migration of an on-premises Oracle database containing PII to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI, what is the most robust approach to guarantee ongoing compliance with data residency requirements throughout the migration and integration process? Option A. Rely on the assumption that all data processed within OCI is automatically compliant with all global data residency regulations, regardless of the chosen region. Option B. Configure OCI services to explicitly restrict data storage and processing to the approved regions, and implement data validation checks post-migration to confirm data location. Option C. Assume that OCI's default configurations will maintain data residency and conduct a comprehensive audit only after the entire migration and integration are completed. Option D. Prioritize the migration speed and technical feasibility, with a plan to address data residency concerns through a separate compliance review after the system is live. The correct answer is B. Configure OCI services to explicitly restrict data storage and processing to the approved regions, and implement data validation checks post-migration to confirm data location. Explanation. The evaluation methodology shows a common challenge in cloud database migration and integration projects, balancing the need for rapid deployment with stringent regulatory compliance, specifically concerning data residency and privacy. In the context of Oracle Cloud Database 2023 Migration and Integration Professional, adherence to Oracle's own cloud service agreements and relevant data protection regulations, assuming a U.S. jurisdiction for this exam's context, such as GDPR-like principles applied within U.S. cloud deployments or specific state-level regulations, is paramount. The professionally challenging aspect lies in ensuring that data, particularly sensitive or personally identifiable information, PI, is not inadvertently moved to or processed in regions that violate contractual obligations or legal mandates. This requires a deep understanding of Oracle Cloud infrastructure, OSI region capabilities, data sovereignty controls, and the specific compliance requirements of the data being migrated. A misstep can lead to significant legal penalties, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it proactively identifies and addresses potential compliance risks before and during the migration. By leveraging OCI's data residency controls and conducting thorough validation, the professional demonstrates due diligence and a commitment to regulatory adherence. This aligns with the principle of privacy by design and ensures that the migration strategy is not only technically sound, but also legally and ethically compliant. An incorrect approach that fails to consider data residency during migration is professionally unacceptable because it directly violates the implicit or explicit contractual obligations regarding data location and processing. This could lead to breaches of data protection laws, such as those requiring data to remain within specific geographic boundaries or under specific legal jurisdictions. Another incorrect approach that relies solely on post-migration audits without proactive controls is also flawed. It represents a reactive rather than a preventative stance, increasing the likelihood of non-compliance and the associated risks. Finally, an approach that prioritizes speed over compliance, assuming that regulatory requirements will be addressed later, demonstrates a severe lack of professional responsibility and a disregard for legal and ethical obligations. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a risk-based assessment. This means identifying all potential compliance requirements upfront, understanding the capabilities and limitations of the chosen cloud services, in this case, OSI, and designing the migration and integration strategy to inherently incorporate these controls. Regular validation and documentation throughout the process are crucial to demonstrate adherence and provide an audit trail. Question 17. The evaluation methodology shows that after a successful initial migration of an on-premises Oracle database to Oracle Cloud infrastructure, the project team is assessing the next steps for process optimization. Given the project's objective to achieve cost efficiency and optimal performance in the cloud, which of the following strategies best aligns with professional best practices for post-migration database optimization in OCI? Option A. Conduct extensive broad-stroke performance tuning across all database parameters without establishing pre-migration baselines, post-migration validation, assuming that general cloud best practices will automatically yield improvements. Option B. Implement a series of targeted performance tuning initiatives based on pre-migration benchmarks and continuous post-migration monitoring of key performance indicators, focusing on areas identified as potential bottlenecks during the migration assessment. Option C. Focus solely on reducing the compute instance size to minimize costs, without assessing the impact on database performance or potential for query optimization. Option D. Immediately proceed with migrating additional, non-critical databases to OCI, deferring any significant performance tuning efforts until a later phase to maintain migration momentum. The correct answer is B. Implement a series of targeted performance tuning initiatives based on pre-migration benchmarks and continuous post-migration monitoring of key performance indicators, focusing on areas identified as potential bottlenecks during the migration assessment. Explanation. The evaluation methodology shows a critical juncture in a cloud database migration project where process optimization is paramount. Challenge lies in balancing the immediate need for migration completion with the long-term implications of performance, cost, and maintainability in the Oracle Cloud infrastructure, OSI. Professionals must navigate potential trade-offs, ensuring that optimization efforts do not introduce undue risk or violate compliance requirements inherent in cloud database deployments. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a phased, data-driven optimization strategy. This involves establishing clear performance baselines before migration, implementing targeted optimizations based on observed bottlenecks, and continuously monitoring post-migration performance against these baselines. This methodical approach aligns with OCI best practices for performance tuning and cost management, ensuring that the migrated database is not only functional but also efficient and cost-effective. Furthermore, it supports adherence to any relevant data governance or security policies by ensuring that performance tuning does not inadvertently compromise data integrity or access controls. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on migrating the database with minimal post-migration tuning is professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from neglecting the optimization phase, which can lead to suboptimal performance, increased operational costs due to inefficient resource utilization, and a poor user experience. Ethically, it represents a failure to deliver a solution that meets the client's implicit or explicit requirements for a performant and cost-effective cloud database. Another incorrect approach that involves aggressive, unmeasured performance tuning without establishing baselines or monitoring is also professionally flawed. This can lead to unintended consequences, such as instability, data corruption, or exceeding resource limits, potentially violating service-level agreements, SLAs, and incurring unexpected costs. This approach demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for the controlled nature of cloud environments. The professional reasoning process for such situations should involve a thorough understanding of the project's objectives, a detailed assessment of the current database environment, and a clear definition of performance and cost targets in OCI. Professionals should leverage OCI's monitoring and diagnostic tools to establish baselines, identify specific areas for optimization, and validate the effectiveness of implemented changes. Collaboration with stakeholders to define acceptable performance metrics and cost constraints is crucial. A risk-based approach, prioritizing optimizations that offer the greatest impact with the lowest risk, should guide the process. Question 18. Implementation of an Oracle database migration to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI, for a financial services firm operating under strict data residency laws requires careful consideration of where customer data is physically stored and processed. The firm has identified that all sensitive customer financial data must reside within the European Union. Which of the following approaches best ensures compliance with these data residency requirements during the migration? Option A. Rely on general compliance statements from the cloud provider without specific verification of the chosen OCI region's adherence to EU data residency laws. Option B. Select an OCI region located within the European Union for the database migration. Option C. Proceed with the migration to a default OCI region and address data residency concerns post-migration. Option D. Choose the OCI region with the lowest cost for the migration to optimize budget. The correct answer is B. Select an OCI region located within the European Union for the database migration. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge in migrating a critical Oracle database to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI, while adhering to strict data residency and privacy regulations. The challenge lies in balancing the technical requirements of a seamless migration with the legal and compliance obligations that govern where sensitive customer data can be stored and processed. Misinterpreting or overlooking these regulations can lead to severe legal penalties, reputational damage, and loss of customer trust. The professional must exercise careful judgment to select a migration strategy that is both technically sound and fully compliant. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough assessment of data residency requirements and the selection of an OCI region that aligns with these mandates. This demonstrates best professional practice by prioritizing legal and regulatory compliance from the outset. By choosing an OCI region within the specified jurisdiction, the organization ensures that all customer data remains within the legally defined boundaries, thereby avoiding potential violations of data protection laws. This proactive compliance measure is ethically sound and professionally responsible, safeguarding both the organization and its customers. Incorrect approaches analysis. An approach that prioritizes cost savings by selecting the cheapest OCI region without verifying its compliance with data residency laws is professionally unacceptable. This represents a significant regulatory failure, as it risks storing sensitive data in a jurisdiction that is not permitted, leading to potential fines and legal action. Ethically, it breaches the trust placed in the organization to protect customer data. Another incorrect approach is to proceed with the migration using a default OCI region and address compliance concerns post-migration. This is a reactive and risky strategy that constitutes a regulatory failure. It demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for the importance of data sovereignty, potentially exposing the organization to non-compliance issues that are far more difficult and costly to rectify after the fact. Finally, relying solely on the cloud provider's general assurances of compliance without specific verification against the organization's unique data residency requirements is also professionally unsound. While cloud providers offer robust compliance frameworks, the ultimate responsibility for ensuring data residency lies with the customer. This approach risks a regulatory failure due to a misunderstanding of shared responsibility models and a failure to conduct necessary due diligence. Professional reasoning. Professionals undertaking cloud database migrations must adopt a risk-based approach that integrates compliance into every stage of the project. The decision-making process should begin with a comprehensive understanding of all applicable regulatory frameworks, particularly those related to data residency and privacy. This involves consulting legal counsel and compliance officers to identify specific jurisdictional requirements. The next step is to map these requirements to available cloud service offerings, such as OCI regions. Technical migration strategies should then be designed to align with these compliance constraints. Continuous monitoring and auditing are essential to ensure ongoing adherence to regulations. Question 19. The risk matrix shows a high likelihood of data residency noncompliance if sensitive customer data is migrated to an OCI region outside of the United States, potentially violating U.S. federal regulations. Which migration approach best aligns with professional best practices and regulatory adherence for this scenario? Option A. Select an OCI region within the United States that has been certified for handling sensitive data and implement robust encryption and access control mechanisms compliant with U.S. federal regulations. Option B. Prioritize migrating data to the OCI region with the lowest latency to minimize application downtime, assuming OCI's global infrastructure inherently meets all regulatory needs. Option C. Proceed with migrating data to the closest available OCI region to expedite the process and address any compliance concerns post-migration through configuration adjustments. Option D. Focus on achieving the highest possible data transfer speeds during migration, deferring detailed security and compliance reviews until after the data is fully provisioned in the cloud. The correct answer is A. Select an OCI region within the United States that has been certified for handling sensitive data and implement robust encryption and access control mechanisms compliant with U.S. federal regulations. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud database migration and integration projects, balancing the need for rapid deployment with robust security and compliance. The risk matrix, a standard tool for assessing potential threats and their impact, highlights a critical vulnerability related to data residency and compliance with Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI, best practices and relevant U.S. federal regulations for data handling. The challenge lies in selecting a migration strategy that not only meets performance objectives, but also adheres to strict jurisdictional requirements, particularly concerning sensitive data. Failure to address these compliance aspects proactively can lead to significant legal, financial, and reputational damage. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves prioritizing a migration strategy that explicitly addresses data residency and compliance requirements within the OCI framework and U.S. federal regulations. This means selecting an OCI region that aligns with data sovereignty mandates and implementing data encryption and access controls that meet or exceed regulatory standards. This approach represents best professional practice because it embeds compliance and security from the outset, aligning with the principle of security by design. It demonstrates a thorough understanding of the regulatory landscape governing cloud data and the specific capabilities of OCI to meet these demands. Adhering to these principles ensures that the migration not only achieves its technical goals, but also maintains legal and ethical integrity, safeguarding sensitive data and avoiding potential penalties. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to proceed with a migration to the closest available OCI region without verifying its compliance with data residency laws. This represents a significant regulatory failure, as it disregards explicit legal mandates for data sovereignty, potentially leading to noncompliance with U.S. federal regulations. Ethically, it exposes the organization to risks associated with unauthorized data access or processing in jurisdictions that may not offer equivalent data protection. Another incorrect approach is to focus solely on the speed of migration and data throughput, overlooking the need for robust encryption and access control mechanisms that meet regulatory standards. This approach fails to address the security and privacy aspects mandated by U.S. federal regulations, creating a substantial compliance gap. It is ethically unsound as it prioritizes expediency over the protection of sensitive information. A third incorrect approach is to assume that OCI's default security configurations are sufficient without a specific review against the identified risks and regulatory requirements. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to proactively manage compliance. It is a regulatory failure because it relies on assumptions rather than verified adherence to specific legal obligations. Ethically, it can lead to a false sense of security, leaving data vulnerable to breaches that could have been prevented with a tailored security posture. Professional reasoning. Professionals in cloud database migration and integration must adopt a risk-based, compliance-first mindset. The decision-making process should begin with a thorough understanding of all applicable regulatory frameworks, particularly those related to data residency and security within the chosen cloud provider's jurisdiction. When presented with a risk matrix, the immediate focus should be on identifying and prioritizing risks that have regulatory or compliance implications. The chosen migration strategy must then be evaluated against these identified risks and regulatory requirements. This involves selecting appropriate cloud regions, implementing necessary security controls, encryption, access management, and ensuring data governance policies are aligned with legal obligations. Continuous monitoring and auditing are crucial to maintain compliance throughout the migration and operational phases. Question 20. The control framework reveals that a hybrid cloud database migration project is considering a data integration strategy that involves direct database links between the on-premises Oracle database and an Oracle Cloud Infrastructure database. This approach is being evaluated for its speed of implementation. Which of the following integration strategies, when considering best practices for data governance, security, and auditability within the Oracle Cloud ecosystem, represents the most professionally sound approach for ongoing data synchronization and disaster recovery? Option A. Utilize custom scripting to extract, transform, and load data between the on-premises and OCI databases, focusing on minimal development effort. Option B. Implement Oracle Data Guard with a logical standby database in OCI, augmented by Oracle Golden Gate for near real-time data replication and transformation. Option C. Employ periodic export and import of data using flat files to synchronize the on-premises and OCI databases. Option D. Rely solely on direct database links for data transfer, prioritizing immediate data availability over comprehensive control mechanisms. The correct answer is B. Implement Oracle Data Guard with a logical standby database in OCI, augmented by Oracle Golden Gate for near real-time data replication and transformation. Explanation. The control framework reveals a critical juncture in a cloud database migration project where the chosen data integration strategy for a hybrid cloud deployment faces scrutiny. The professional challenge lies in balancing the immediate need for data synchronization with long-term data governance and compliance requirements mandated by Oracle's regulatory framework for cloud services, specifically within the context of the 1Z0-1094-23 exam's implied jurisdiction, which, for this exam, is assumed to align with general best practices and Oracle's own published guidelines for cloud data management, without specifying a particular country's laws unless explicitly stated in the exam syllabus. The integration approach must not only be technically sound, but also demonstrably secure, auditable, and compliant with data residency and privacy principles. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a robust, auditable, and compliant integration method. Utilizing Oracle Data Guard with a logical standby database in the cloud, coupled with Oracle Golden Gate for near real-time data replication and transformation, ensures data integrity, provides a disaster recovery solution, and allows for granular control over data movement. This method aligns with Oracle's recommendations for secure and efficient data integration in hybrid environments, facilitating compliance with potential data sovereignty and privacy regulations by maintaining control over data transformations and access. It also supports a clear audit trail, essential for regulatory compliance. An incorrect approach that relies solely on direct database links for data transfer between on-premises and cloud environments is professionally unacceptable. This method bypasses established data integration patterns, lacks inherent auditing capabilities for data movement, and can expose sensitive data to increased risk due to direct, unmanaged connections. It fails to provide the necessary controls for data transformation and validation, potentially leading to data inconsistencies and non-compliance with data quality standards. Furthermore, it does not offer the resilience or disaster recovery capabilities expected in a professional cloud migration. Another incorrect approach, involving the export and import of data using flat files for synchronization, is also professionally flawed. This method is inherently inefficient, prone to data corruption during transfer, and lacks real-time synchronization capabilities. It creates significant downtime for data updates and introduces a high risk of data loss or staleness. From a compliance perspective, it offers no audit trail for data changes and makes it difficult to enforce data governance policies, thereby failing to meet professional standards for data management and integration. A third incorrect approach, employing custom scripting for data replication without leveraging Oracle's native or certified tools, presents significant risks. While seemingly flexible, custom scripts are often difficult to maintain, lack robust error handling, and are not inherently designed for the complexities of cloud data integration and disaster recovery. They can introduce security vulnerabilities, bypass existing security controls, and create an opaque data flow that is impossible to audit effectively. This approach deviates from best practices by avoiding proven, secure, and supported integration solutions, leading to potential compliance failures and operational instability. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough assessment of technical requirements, security mandates, and regulatory obligations. Professionals must evaluate integration strategies against established Oracle best practices for cloud data management and integration, prioritizing solutions that offer auditability, security, resilience, and compliance. A risk-based approach, considering the sensitivity of the data and the criticality of the application, is essential. Engaging with Oracle documentation and support for recommended integration patterns for hybrid and multi-cloud deployments is a key step in ensuring a compliant and robust solution.